Hello Internet, so nice to see you. Today I want to talk about the three most important basics of music theory. Those basics are so important that I'm always surprised when I encounter people who have been studying music theory for years and I don't know about them. Wow. But they are super simple, that's the point. And indeed, if you guys are just starting in learning music theory, this will be a good point to start, okay? Now, whenever you go around the internet and you watch those this is the basic of music theory videos, they always tell you about notes and chords and how to write a major scale and how to find the notes in the C chord. Okay, this is all good, I'm not saying no, but I wouldn't even start there. I will start here. I will say this. Listen, you have several notes. You have 12 notes in total that you can play. In many situations in music, you play several of those notes at the same time. Whenever you play a group of notes at the same time, we call that group a chord. Some chords are really nice. Some other chords are less tame. But they're all chords, okay? So, basic number 0, because we're not there yet, is that chords are sets of notes, okay? That's important to know. Notes are single sounds. Chords is when you put many of them together. Okay, great. So now, the basic number 1. When they give you a chord chart, which means they give you a chord progression, they write down those chords, okay, and you want to write a melody on top, or you want to solo on top, principle number 1 tells you this. When a chord is playing, the notes of that chord will always be good notes for your solo or melody. So, preferentially, you should play or start playing from those notes. It's not an absolute rule, but it is absolute that the notes of the chord will sound good. It's not absolute that you have to start or play those, but every time the note of the chord will sound good. So, if my chord progression starts from the C chord, and as we're going to learn in one of my other videos, the notes in the C chord are the notes C, E, and G. C, E, or G. When I want to solo on this C chord, I can play a C note, or an E note, or a G note. Okay? And those 3 notes sound good all the time. This is the principle behind what we call chord tone soloing. If you want to learn more about that, I actually have a free course about that. Free course on chord tone soloing, check it up on the top right. Indeed, when they give you the chord progression or a chord chart, what they are telling you essentially is that in that moment in time where the C chord is written, the notes that do not require any justification are the notes of the C chord, C, E, and G. All the other notes can be played because you can always do everything you want in music, but to sound good, those other notes will require some justification. And this we're going to cover in another video another time. Just take this principle. Whenever a chord is playing, the notes of that chord will sound good in the melody or the solo every single time. Principle number 2. Let's say you have a melody. The melody could be literally anything that you can sing. Okay? You have a melody, you have a solo, you have a sequence of single notes. And you want to find the chords that work under this melody. This is a procedure called harmonization. Okay? You have a melody, you want to find the chord. You are a singer-songwriter and you are singing a melody, you want to find what chords work under that. You are a guitar player, you're writing a solo and you want to find what chord work under that. Because most of the time we work from the chord to the solo, but sometimes we work from the solo to the chords. We can. The principle number 2 says the chords that contain the note of the melody will always sound good under that melody. Will other chords sound good? Yes. Again, you can do whatever you want in music. Some of the other chords can sound good. It's not required that the notes of the melody are contained in the chords you use to harmonize it. But every time the chord contains the note that is playing in the melody in that moment, that chord will sound good. Okay? Every single time. Those chords will not need to be justified. Those chords work. Okay? Then, of course, since there are several chords that contain even a single note, okay, if your top note, if your melody note is C, there are several chords that contain the C note. If we stay only with chords of 3 notes, you have the C major chord, the C minor chord, the F major chord, the F minor chord, the A minor chord, and the A flat major chord. And they all contain the C note. And all those chords will work, but of course, then the melody will go to another note, and this other note can be harmonized with different chords. And at this point, you have to make choices, because some of the chords you play under here and some of the chords you play under there may not agree with each other. So at that point, yes, we need to get to know a little bit more about harmony and chords to see exactly what is going on and how to pick the best chords. Again, the principle is start choosing the chords that contain the note of the melody. And that's principle number 2. Basic principle number 3. If you are playing a chord progression, there is a way to make this chord progression sound as smooth as possible. Let's say the chord progression is C going to G. C major, the C major chord going to G major, okay? We know the C major chord contains the notes C, E, and G. We know the G major chord contains the note G, B, and D. But if I just play them this way, well, doesn't sound bad, but it's not the smoothest possible option. You see, if I play it this way, you see that the C note here moves into a G note here. The E note moves to a B note. The G note moves to a D note. And especially this G note here, the movement of this G note, it's kind of a waste, because we have a G note here and we have a G note here too. So how about we make this G note stay exactly where it is, okay? But now the G note stays exactly where it is, and what do I do with the other 2 notes? Well, I try to pick the closest note. The C note could go down to a B or up to a D, and it's pretty close either way, but the E note can go down to a D and it's close, and if I want this E note to go up to a B, it's pretty far away. So what I'm doing is this: the C note goes to B, the E note goes to D, the G note stays where it is, and so I'm playing those 2 chords this way. This principle is called voice leading. It just means that you make the notes move as little as possible. You pretend that a singer is singing those 2 notes, another singer is singing those other 2 notes, and a third singer is singing those 2 notes, and you try to make those singers move their voice as little as possible. Now, there is an immediate exception to the principle of voice leading, is that the lowest note that you play can do whatever the hell you want, okay? So if I am playing, for instance, this, so I have C, C, E, G, then when I play the G chord, I'm voice leading the top 3 notes, but the lowest note can go from C to G, so... Why we do that? Because we found out by experiment that your ear doesn't really care if the bottom notes move a lot. Okay? It cares if the top notes move a lot or not. Again, this is not a rule, it's a principle. Essentially, you do this every time unless you have a good reason to do otherwise. If you like the sound of this moving here, this C major going down to this G major, or maybe this C major going up to this C major, kinda Hawaiian style, okay? Then you definitely can move all the notes. But if you don't have a good reason, if you don't want to give a specific effect, if you just are searching for the default thing to do, always voice lead. That will be the third principle. So again, the three principles. You can go from a chord progression to a melody, so creating a solo, improvising a melody, all these kind of things by picking notes of the chords that is playing in that moment. The principle of chord tone soloing. You can go from a melody to a chord progression by using chords that contain the notes in the melody, the principle of harmonization. And you can make chords change into each other by moving the notes of the chord as little as possible, the principle of voice leading. Those three are the real basic principles of music theory. I mean, not the only one. Those are the three most basic principles of music theory, and several people have no idea about all that. Now, it's a good moment for you to start learning what notes are in every chord, what notes are in every scale, and all this kind of thing, because now you know what you can do with that. I mean, what was the point before of knowing that the C chord contains C, E, and G if you don't know what to do with it, right? Now you know, and now you can do something with that. If you need more help understanding all this, I do have a playlist for people who are just starting in music theory, and if you want more help on this, I have lots of free material and even paid courses for you to learn music theory. Right now, I'm leaving you with a link to the playlist for beginners. If you're starting music theory, watch all that playlist, learn everything there is on that, and then write me, and then we can go from there. This is Tommaso Zilio of musictheoryforguitar.com, and until next time, enjoy.